We're live.
We're live.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. Next steps. We talked about some core beliefs.
Mhm.
Should we start with an action plan? Are we that far yet?
We've got the major issues, we got challenges, strengths, stakeholders and their perspectives, course of action you would recommend, rationale for these.
I think we can probably look at some of our possible outcomes and see what steps we're gonna take towards them and start jotting things down.
Yes, and I also think that as we consider options, we should look at ramifications. Like as immediately, like talk about, okay, so here's an option, here's what could potentially go wrong.
Mhm.
I would like to start, if I may. I think that the first thing that needs to happen is that we need to come up with a clear vision plan where all the stakeholders are involved, sort of like when we were in that class with Donna Desiato, and she said that she had the entire community come in, and it wasn't just one person working on it, but the whole community had to come in, and then everyone had to agree with, what was gonna happen and how the schools were gonna be ran. So I feel like if we could start with that, then we could really have that open dialogue that we've been looking for, and people could really come out with their core beliefs and hash it all out, and, it's probably gonna be messy, because obviously, from what we've seen, a lot of people don't have the same values, but I feel like that's the first step in order to get the school in the right direction.
So having like an open forum,
Yes.
and then what would you do to get the minority parents who don't feel welcome anyways to come in? I think we have to anticipate that when you do something like that, the white parents who feel openly and they feel strongly about disagreeing with everything will be the ones to come, and the minority parents who don't feel welcome, who are only 2% of the PTA, probably won't come. So what will we do to engage those parents in that dialogue and make them feel welcome?
I feel like we really have to use that 2% to help advocate and have our teachers, because we had a small cohort of teachers that were on our side too, that would go and advocate as well. Get the students involved, tell them that, it's really important in order to change the school around.
I wonder if we're carting before the horse a little bit with that, just because there's such a disconnect. In order to really properly do a visioning that is that comprehensive, you need buy-in, significant buy-in from all of your stakeholders, and I think that if you attempt to do that, or suggest that as the principal of this school that's in such disarray currently, that you're going to be laughed right out of the school by those teachers. I'm not gonna do this, I'm not interested in this, our vision's fine, this is fine, we're fine, and nobody will be there. You'll be there standing there by yourself with the superintendent who's really going home for you.
I think that that's what we need though, is we need those people to come out and say that they don't wanna be there, or they don't wanna be following the vision, and then we could have that open conversation, well, this is what the school is going to be about. We're going to be about all equity for all students, and everyone's going to be successful. If you're not really happy with that plan,
So are you thinking to get to his step, in order to do the buy-in, do we need like some steps before like community meetings? Do we need, like, I'm gonna go and visit,
open forums.
I'm gonna go and visit 10 houses, 10 people's houses, and my small faction of teachers who are on my side, I want all of them to visit
Yes.
I
10
think we have
houses,
to,
or get 10 people in, like, each person
we
be
have to
responsible
remove that
for
element of fear. Like, they need to not fear each other before we can even start developing a shared kind of common good. Like, they need to at least see that everyone is human and that we all kind of have a commonality. So I like that idea of a home visit, or some way to connect these people in more of a human level than just this is bigger than just the school system, in a way.
Well, I'm just wondering if for the teachers that feel like what Adam was saying, that don't really want to buy in, what is in it for them, really? I'm wondering why would they go to home visits, and why would they take part in this?
Oh, that's what I'm saying, if I know that I have 4 teachers who are on my side,
So
I'm
what
gonna
would
send the 4 of you out, and I'm gonna have you, like, get me 10 people,
Well,
so
what would the benefit be?
I'm gonna get you guys on my side first.
They're
and
already on your
success breeds
side?
success.
Right?
My
small
my
cohort.
small cohort of teachers.
So they're already on your side.
Yes.
Right,
But we wanna get everyone else who's not doing that on your side, so
You
how
don't-
would that?
I don't
You're
think
not
that
gonna
that's
get everyone,
realistic,
but
that's not realistic.
This is part of our issue, so I don't know if that is like the first step. I think there's gotta be some change done in the school to send the picture that we're changing things and something is going to be different, and here's what our action is, and now let's welcome everyone to change the vision. I don't know, I just feel
Could
like
you
that
have
sounds
like
like,
an interim vision where it's just.
oh, I don't, I'm not really sure, it just sounds like a
Right.
big thing to tackle. And I don't know if that would really get people to buy in to, cause the
Right.
people that really need to change are the staff that are teaching the kids.
Yeah.
And they're not the ones that are involved in any of those positive actions, so how will we get them,
That's where you
all
need,
that positivity is still not gonna
starting-
change that.
at a faculty meeting and doing some community building activities.
Yeah.
Marianne's, I think, nail on the head with the first step really has to be leveraging your strengths, leveraging the people, the human resource aspect of things, the people that you know you can leverage in order to start moving and shaking a little bit. Like, you know, an earthquake doesn't start at once, it's a small rumble first, and that's kind of where you gotta start in terms of your people. Leverage the people that are already on your side in order to get your message to a couple more people, in order to talk to parents, do your home visits, in order to find out what's going on in other schools, get your network of professional colleagues that are on the same page as you as well, leveraging all those things first, in order to start building up that base of people that back you up. And I think that's really step number one, to find out where that's gonna start from.
Then also, I think those people who are against you might be some of those people who have been in the district for a while. So we have to honor that, you know, that's their strength. They've been here, they've seen things come and go,
That's true.
and there have to be some of those people that we could also get on our side.
Or at least learn from. I mean, you might not convince me to be on your side ever, but I'm probably happy to offer my opinion and my information and my historical
Right.
knowledge to you.
And maybe just give them a forum to be able to talk about it or vent, you know, and almost in a way, well, maybe there are supports that haven't been put in place, that maybe it's not just blaming the teachers as they aren't, you know, responding in the way we'd like, but there's obviously reasons why this has gotten to this point, so maybe just delving into that. So giving them maybe just an outlet to discuss those things, that might be a starting point.
Okay.
So it's an idea. I mean, throwing it out there for some sort of an idea for a starting point would be to start having, whether it's small meetings, individual meetings. I think that's actually the way to go. Is start with your staff. You're a new
Mhm.
principal. Start with
Reach out,
individual
build
meetings
relationships.
with whomever you can. Like invite parents in or go out to parents. If a principal reaches out, probably more likely for a parent to actually make the stop in, if it's a personal phone call.
Right.
Meet with teachers one-on-one. I think those are small steps that we can start with.
So you're pulling the parents in and meeting with the teachers, what is it that the desired outcome is?
To start opening lines of communication where they might not have been so open to begin with.
Okay.
Getting input from the people who don't necessarily agree with you, even though they're still not agreeing with you.
Right, so I'm just thinking that goes to that human relations frame. You know, building the relationships, if you can't build relationships, like you said, ask for feedback from the people who've been there a long time, just to start to get all voices heard.
So was there
So
gonna
when we're like, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
be, was there gonna be any formal meetings, or is this all just very informal, you know, inviting parents in one at a time, and then teachers one at a time, or?
I think that one at a time thing kinda has to,
Well, I think one change would be, typically the principal has them in a faculty meeting and says, this is the data, what I see. Maybe it should be reversed on the teacher sharing what they see and what they feel. And I know that they might have said negative things, but giving that platform, like what you guys are saying, to have them feel heard, like that's the start. And maybe if they feel heard, they're more likely to listen something too. So maybe that would be the start, is, you know, at a faculty meeting, instead of the principal being the one delivering all the data and content and saying everything, giving teachers a chance to be heard. I don't know.
or even making it smaller for like teams or grade levels.
Like BLC meetings?
Department meetings or.
Yeah.
and then just finding someone from your cohort to be involved in all of those meetings. Is that where you're going?
I think it's important for the principal to deliver the message in person regardless, but
I just know from what we have here in front of us and the fact that as a whole faculty, they didn't respond well to that. You bring them together as a whole faculty and it's, you're gonna get the same response. If I get you into smaller groups,
What
I have a better chance of the positive voice being heard.
What if we also gave students kind of an outlet to talk about this, maybe at like a teacher meeting where they say, you know, I don't feel like my teachers like me, I don't feel like I'm, you know, valued. Maybe the teachers don't even realize that. I mean, it could be something that would be eye-opening if we just exposed that. You know, I feel like the teachers are people that went into the profession for good intentions. They probably, maybe in some regard, don't even realize the kind of, you know, issues that are being created in their own classrooms.
the power of the student voice is pretty.
Well, if you look at if you look at like restorative practices and how to restore a school culture with the teachers, the students, everything, part of that, and I think this goes along with what you guys are saying, is hearing the kid's voice in a certain way, but also part of it is hearing the teacher's voice. So successful schools who are doing well with restorative practices do have teacher reflection circles where teachers are given chances to voice their concerns, vent their frustrations, share positive things. And I think that can be really powerful. As people, you want to be heard. So I don't know if that's something that is used for a lot of places who see disproportionate discipline and inequitable practices. So I think that's the idea of letting students have their voices heard, and teachers in some forum might be a good start to at least getting people to
That could also be something,
slowly changing people to listen.
after we get our vision in place, that could be a nice reflective piece to see, are we on track, you know, do we feel like we can listen to one another and provide feedback, things like that.
So, what pushback is going to happen if we start trying to leverage allies, or if we start trying to allow for teacher feedback? Like, what kinds of things could go wrong here?
Well, you're gonna be creating adversaries as well. So there's gonna be people that are gonna be against you just because that's their value or that's their core belief. So as soon as you start pushing one way, people will pull back. So we can expect that to happen. You're gonna have union calls.
Right, well, that's why I was saying, don't do it for the full faculty. Get them into smaller groups.
At first, you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'd be interesting also if you could do individually and see, well, maybe some are just aligning, you know, to save face. I mean, it'd be interesting to really get at what people honestly think.
I mean, it's important to build relationships and hear people and get people to work together and build this community sense, but it's also important to be a leader and say, this is what's right and this is what's wrong. And I think that message is also one of the first things that we're making some changes and this is what, so I think it's important to hear everyone's voices and find ways that we can get everyone involved, those who want to be, because I think one of the pushbacks is people are gonna just be uninvolved and shut down.
Right.
But I also think it's important as a leader to say, this is not what we believe in this school and we're gonna make changes. And you
Right.
have to firmly stand on that. And then you continue to work around that in an appropriate way.
Having a strong message that, like, our current system is broken, we can't continue like this and still serve students, which is our primary job here, so we have to change, and here's why, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Absolutely.
I think also if we can somehow maintain a semblance of positivity too, and make them feel like, okay, no, you're not, I think we're kind of coming into saying, okay, you're doing everything wrong and we want everything changed. Like, I think we've got to soften that blow a little bit and say, here are some things that are being done positively in our classrooms. even though it might be hard for us to do that,
Right.
and then kind of urge them in that direction too.
So showcase some of the highlights of things that are positive, of
Right.
course. Yeah.
Okay, so for the so that, is that then our first, step for the action plan? Having the strong message that we need to change, build relationships, keep people together, restorative practices, everything
I think we need
right there.
some courageous conversations happening in that school. When when things come up and people say things, we need to leverage those people who are part of your vision. We need to leverage them in having those conversations appropriately, and so that it doesn't continue and spread like wildfire. And I think you can leverage the people that are on your side in that way too. You know, because courageous conversations can happen at the water
Oh, yeah.
cooler.
That's right.
Okay,
What's that, water coolers?
Or the water fountain.
alright, so is that good for like one area of our action plan? That's gonna address the cohesive and culturally responsive staff, well, or do we still,
I think they also lack tools to even, I think we have to talk about the instructional piece too.
so is that a
It's not
completely
early,
separate
but,
one? I
right.
mean, do we do that under professional development? Do we do that under,
I wish we knew what their evaluations were looking like and what the plan, how it went. Because I really think when there's behavior, there's probably lack of engagement or
Mhm.
in issues with instruction. So I think you always have to tie it back to instruction. So I think, and I'm not sure where it would go. I don't know.
so something in there about curriculum and instruction and professional development?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of PD that needs to happen.
Not just surrounding curriculum and instruction.
Yeah.
Right.
For a lot of areas. And a
Culturally
strong plan to
responsive.
follow through with the PD and how are we reflecting on that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
on our practices.
Culturally responsive, the effects of poverty on children.
Working with parents,
Mm-hmm.
building relations.
PD on handling behavior in your classroom.
Oh, yeah, classroom management.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Co-teaching, collaboration
Creating your
with-
learning environment in your classroom,
Yeah.
PD on that.
Yeah.
Having a positive learning environment.
Also data analysis.
Okay, got a lot of PD. So we have build relationships,
We have
PD,
to review the discipline
Yeah.
system,
Disciplines.
revamp it.
yeah.
Review first.
Review it first
Yeah.
and see why there's so
Yep.
many students being sent to the office for these reasons. And then revamp it, take a look at the whole code of conduct for the school district. And that should probably be a school-wide meeting as well, getting everyone on board so that they have input and figure out how to reduce those number of referrals, but have buy-in from the staff so that they're just not saying, well, you know, I can't teach my class because of student A or.
Well, I think Meg said also having the teachers be a part of that data collection, you know, because what they see is just
Yes.
what the principal
Right.
collects, so I
Right.
think we can add that on
Well,
to.
they had said
to
that
that.
during the report too, that they had no idea that there was that many
Right,
referrals, so.
sure.
Right. So
And-
being a part of the collection and also the analysis.
And I think it helps with the culture too, they don't feel like that gotcha moment,
Mhm.
Right.
you know, because they are a part of it and it's not a surprise to them.
And outreach certainly to parents, like communicating well what's the expectation and, you know, having them also be on board to provide feedback too. What's working, what's not.
We're getting so far down this page. There we go.
I'm on page three.
Three.
is our review of the discipline system a different action in our action plan than our parents, or are we weaving, are we kind of weaving parents into each one of these?
I think we're
It's
trying
hard
to.
not to,
Yeah.
yeah.
It should be
I think
involved.
you can-
So we're not like separating parents out, here's what we need to do for parents, it's like, in discipline, here's what we're doing, in,
It kinda seems that way. I
Okay.
mean,
there also just could be, teas for parents and,
Right,
cookie and tea,
right.
coffee.
Oh, I thought you
Um,
meant the letter and
Yeah.
Ways
Or
to
teas,
get them to
right.
come in
Yeah.
and just have
Ways
a
to-
fun time in the school, and then slowly you can start,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
just seeing the school in a positive light.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
just connecting it with something good.
Yeah, create some front porch opportunities, I like to call them, like things that like people see as they're going by the school, or like, I think of like music programs, theater programs,
Sure.
art programs,
Good point.
athletics as front porch. You know, that's the thing that people on the outside see first.
And that would be interesting to see about the school in that sense too, because we don't know anything about
Yeah,
the
we don't know
programs they
anything about
have, and I
programs.
think that those are great ways to get students engaged and achieving.
Mhm. Maybe we need to just talk with them further about what do they feel they need, or, there's kind of these assumptions going on about the parents, and let's let them, advocate for themselves.
And services available.
Right.
Something that we haven't addressed at all, I just realized this, is that there's a significant number of parents and community members who don't speak English at all,
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and we haven't talked about that.
yep.
So ways to engage them, and I wonder what the school is currently doing to make sure that they are communicating to them properly, if they cannot, if there's a group of families that can't speak English, or,
Yep.
what are we doing to meet their needs and support them and their students and their kids?
Okay, so that's 4 areas in an action plan. Is that gonna be enough to reach what the superintendent wants?
Could you recap what the 4 areas were?
Having the strong message that we need to change our broken system, and that's all going around the building relationships and creates the conversations, restorative practices. We have a whole section on curriculum, a whole section on professional development, a whole section on reviewing the discipline system and revamping it, and then something on the parent and school connection.
Mhm.
Did we include courageous conversations in that? I think we did.
Yes.
In the first one,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes.
Oh. Something about examining, you said wanting to examine hiring practices,
Mhm. That's right. Yes.
recruitment process.
Mhm. Would that be under changing the broken system?
Yeah, I think it
First.
might go with
No.
Because we saw that as part of our possible outcome for
Hmm.
Yeah, I'd also like to see something else. One of the things we don't know is the age demographic of our faculty. Like, are a lot of them close to retirement? Are some of them close to retirement? Like, what's the turnover going to be like in the
Mhm.
next few years? Because that would really have an impact on this recruitment process and
Mhm.
hiring.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a substantial way that a principal can really affect their staff.
Mhm.
Or am I stuck in same staff for the next 20 years?
Well, I think that if you create your vision, and that it's just geared towards all students we're going to achieve, then, you'd be- I can't. But then you'd be able to help push out some of those people that are ready to retire,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then bring in, with the hiring practice, to say,
Yeah.
this is our vision,
Be very upfront.
So,
Absolutely.
if you're scared of black families, this probably isn't going
Right.
This isn't a good place
This
for you.
probably isn't gonna be where you should work.
to bring up that safety issue anywhere in
didn't
here, or is
see
that gonna go
What's the
away
safety issue?
with the,
The teacher saying.
yeah, is that
they
gonna
don't
go
feel
away
safe
with the
black
culturally
people?
responsive?
Yeah.
That's
I
gotta
just-
go away, that has to, I don't feel safe with black people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a reaction, like if it doesn't go away with, I think if the whole school is changing,
Yeah.
people that truly believe that don't wanna be a part of that.
Yeah.
Right.
So those kinds of
Validate.
faculty will early retirement,
Mhm.
find another job, or,
Yeah.
And I think that there's a certain portion of that demographic that would feel that way, that is just a little ignorant, they need
Right.
help, they're like, maybe they're not stuck there, maybe they're just, like, what do I need next? And that, what we're trying to say we wanna
Mhm.
do for them, will help them to move on to that next step.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times when you do like the Ruby Payne framework of poverty, your eyes are like
Yeah.
wide open, you're like, holy
Oh
cow.
my God, yeah.
You know, the thing about jumping classes, because then, I mean, I just remember looking to jump to, the upper class, and I'm like, oh,
That's never gonna
no,
happen. Right.
I can't function there,
Yeah.
so.
While we're kind of on the topic of poverty too, is there anything that the school can do to provide so that students feel like they're meeting their basic needs? Like, it seems like also there's an issue, maybe students aren't performing because they don't have,
maybe they're hungry.
Right.
I mean, that's like
is
something
there
basic
something that we
schools-
can think about in that? It's not directing it towards staff, but is there something structurally that we are missing in that regard?
So I put that in the parent-school connection.
Yeah. The recruiting too, I think it'd be important to try to get people that are dually certified. So
And like
someone that can,
piano.
yeah. Or offer that, maybe offer, I don't know if a principal has that authority, but it sounds like the superintendent's on board to maybe offer that as an option for classes or furthering your degree.
Mhm. Yeah, further professional development too,
Yeah.
for teachers.
Oh, now that you just said that. SIOP PD for, that's the number one, professional development, that's for English language learners. Sheltered instruction observation protocol.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay.
It says I wish teachers would contact me more often, as one of the comments made from parents. So maybe we just need more parent nights or parent interactions, like more opportunities, I guess.
It's also not beyond the authority of the principal to set expectations for parent communication.
Mm-hmm.
I expect my teachers to reach out to all parents in their classroom.
Or I expect them to make one positive phone call a
Right.
week.
Right.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, what about things just as simple as newsletters or,
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, some schools do
Facebook
have,
or-
I expect you to
Right.
make 10 phone calls a week, or
Yeah.
you have to turn in communication logs.
That are translated
Uh-huh.
as well, you know.
Or, even
that'd go a long way.
a certain percentage of participation in parent-teacher conferences, so it's really up to the teacher to make it happen, and
Right.
whatever it takes to get the
Reach
parent
out to the
in,
parents.
and you put that on the teacher to build that relationship.
Mhm. Yeah, because it says I'm not calling parents because I don't have time. Well, if the leader prioritizes that as something
That's an
that is
expectation.
valued,
Right.
then that's gonna happen.
So, maybe one of the things that we need to put in an action plan is, when we talk about just systems and protocols, like things with parents, like looking at those systems in place that they have. And that could be something that would get people on board until they're able, at least, so they can start maintaining their own relationships.
Mhm. I think there needs to be more practices up front too. It's like if you look at like the discipline in the first week or so, there's a lot more different infractions going on, then some of them kind of lessen. And also like the parents say they don't even know what's expected of their child.
Right.
So there seems like there's really this lack of understanding early on in the school year of
What the rules and
what we,
expectations are.
yeah,
Mhm.
what we,
more like procedures and protocols within the classroom?
In the school.
Yeah,
Mhm.
both.
Something else that's so interesting is all of the kids sent to the office, and then that tiny number of interventions that
Right.
included even parent
Yes.
contact
There's
That's a huge
before
one.
sending them.
Yes.
It's like so small
Yeah.
compared to the number.
So what do we call the different tiers of interventions?
RTS.
No, just like level one,
Mhm.
you know, just stuff like
Okay.
going over in proximity to a child.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
speaking in a calm voice.
Mhm.
Yep.
So some PD.
Ah, yes.
More PD. Well, I mean, it just seems like their automatic response is to send kids to the office rather than
Oh,
have
yeah.
that
Mhm.
relationship and use it, so.
Well, it wasn't that the way
Mhm.
25 years ago.
Right.
Kid misbehaves, they go to the office.
So in the short term then, I'm just looking, since you said the data,
Mhm.
are we looking at, like what kind of reduction in numbers would be, you know, if this is 5 weeks here and this is all tallied up here, so like what is the percentage of, African American students, having referrals? And so are we looking in the short term, we're trying to reduce that, you know, in the next 5 weeks by 10%? Is that something that we need to set, like those types of goals? And then do we need to set those types of goals for academic achievement as well? But that would mean collecting, this data is already collected, that would mean teachers starting to collect their own.
I also think that might not be something that we put into the action plan to the superintendent that we deliver, but that might be something that gets developed after the full year is completed. We finish the year over the summer, we look at that data, we set some goals, whether it's with a committee or a leadership team or whatever it is, school improvement team maybe, and
Yeah.
set those goals then.
Okay,
I don't know, as the superintendent needs to know that before a full school year is out.
That might be a long-term goal, is to reduce the, you know, and kind of specify like a reduction. I think
I'd like to
changing
see-
some systems and practices in place, and then we can come up with a number. I think it's hard to come up with a number without having
Yeah,
the
yeah,
systems and
that's-
protocols in
yeah.
place.
Right.
I wouldn't even know where to begin, cause, you know, and I think maybe part of changing the system would be, like what you said, the levels of intervention that need to be done before you are allowed to send a child to the office, you know,
Right.
that's,
Maybe before me.
you know, or what are the violations that you're allowed to send the kids to the office for,
Mhm.
you know, for the dress code, no.
Right.
You know, I think those kinds of things need to be set in place.
Yeah.
And you might see a reduction, and then you can go from there and like, okay, what's a reasonable rate of reduction that we
Mhm.
can use based on this trend?
Yeah.
That's very wise, Sophia.
If I had a pen, I'd drop it.
Inviting stakeholders into that process, you know, letting students be part of kind of.
The discipline
Yeah,
process, absolutely.
Maybe our goal is just to get the school off the watch list. I mean, that could be, that's.
Like a long-term goal.
Right, I mean, that for the third year in a row, they haven't met that annual progress for those students.
You know, something else that I just thought about when you mentioned the idea of stakeholders and getting students involved, but also it's very important that you also involve people of the same like culture and race in making those decisions.
Mhm.
So when you can't make decisions about black children without having black people involved in making the decision. You can't make, you know, decisions about whatever. So I think that's another thing we have to consider when we're talking about who's gonna be involved, because a lot of the parents that are involved are white parents, and they're not necessarily the parents of the kids that we're really trying to make this change for.
So it's gotta be a
overall.
representative group that's
Mhm.
making those decisions, yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, we have 5 items to our action plan. Are we ready to start writing it, or? Do we need to, I was thinking, I'm sorry, I was thinking we should go back to the problem,
Are we addressing
Yeah.
the root kind of
Mhm.
underlying?
well, I'm also thinking when we put together this presentation, isn't that something that we need to say? Here is our problem, do we need to wordsmith this problem? Is it too broad? Does it need to be narrowed? Does it encompass? I mean, we've got students in there, but we don't have anything about parents or community or teachers.
And is it really the conflict between the belief systems? You know, I'm wondering if that really, I mean, that kind of encompasses that issue, but maybe really underscoring that is that we are incompatible with our beliefs and we need to realign.
What do you guys think?
Could it be something like the systems in place are not meeting the needs of the students? Like the current systems in place are not meeting the needs of,
I like
because
that.
everything we're saying has to do with changing some certain systems, procedures, protocols. And
Will that change their beliefs though?
I think
that's-
when you
I think
start
that's-
with like, so if you say the teachers don't feel like they need to involve parents, and if I put a system in place
Right.
that says you need to have X, Y, and Z to prove that you're involving parents, I think slowly it will start to shift and parents will start to feel more welcome and they will start to build more relationships. I think that's a long-term goal where all parents are gonna feel welcome, but I think short-term would be changing the systems where teachers have to be held accountable
Right.
to reaching out at least.
Because you're not gonna be able to change everyone's beliefs, but
It's
you
true.
can change the systems.
And you can change their
That's true.
practices.
Right.
So you can have that expectation and the procedures in place, and people are gonna push back and it's gonna be difficult, but like I said, I think people who truly have that fundamental belief that I'm afraid of black people, like the one teachers, if they truly believe that and there's no system you can put in place to help them, they're not going to stay, cause no one else
That's
is gonna
true.
feel that way.
Right, that is
So
true.
I think, I don't know, just coming from like, what are the things we can change? We can change systems to hopefully support people in
Yeah.
making those changes.
We can
to build
change
those
them, but I
relationships.
still think what you said, that the conflict between people's beliefs is a part of the problem. Yes, the systems might,
But I
putting-
think
putting
that's
them in
part of the
place is the
system.
solution,
What
right.
are we gonna do? PD,
Right.
how are we,
So
we're gonna
that's
put
what I'm
that in
saying,
place.
but I
That
think
might
we need-
disenfranchise them even more if you say, I'm gonna make you do this a certain way, but if they don't feel it, like they're connected to that shift. I mean, yeah, there's some outliers that are really fearful, but there's probably there's 99% of those white staff, you're not gonna be able to fire them all, you know, you're gonna have to have some kind of, and a lot of those, changes that we've suggested are kind of looking at core issues and beliefs, like how do we, you know, use transformative, use the, it's
restorative.
thank you, practices and things like that that are shaping the culture and the climate.
Yeah, but we need to change the systems, because just because the 99% of the staff is white doesn't mean that they're all fearful of the
Right.
black students or
Mhm.
black
Right.
families. So
That's
there's gonna
true.
be the outliers there, just are going to blame the current system, blame the students because
Sure.
the systems aren't in place.
Yeah.
So I feel like if the systems were in place and it's encouraging the collaboration, encouraging the communication,
Mhm.
that's the way to go.
I also think that the whole professional development, we have a lot of professional development here that's suggested as potential improvements. And you offer faculty choice in their professional development to some extent. You know, I mean, there are certain things that you're going to require, culturally responsive professional development, you know, that's going to be required for all, because it's necessary, that's necessary. We have a problem with culturally responsive education in our building. Everybody goes to that, but I mean, there are probably lots of people who have fantastic instructional practices that don't really need PD on that, but they would
Sure.
love to know more about how to build relationships with the parents because they have no idea how to break in there.
Yeah.
You know, so you offer some amount of choice and you
Choice.
get some amount of buy-in,
Mhm.
even from some outliers that might not have bought in before, maybe,
Mhm.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I have to push it. That's part of our solution. I need to go back to our problem. Cause I think part of the relationships are the problem and part of the systems are the problem. So do we need to rewrite?
I think the way the systems have created this culture issue.
Then let's write that.
There's no systems in place, so we have this there was nothing put in place to prepare this school, as far as we know, to integrate and deal with this. There's a lack of system, and there's a huge cultural problem.
We're plugging in. Yeah,
okay, say that again, systems haven't been put into place to address,
The changes in the,
Yeah, and
the
that's created
demographic
a
of the
wide,
school.
a wide
right above the action plan.
belief system
Right above it.
issue.
Systems have not put into place to address the changes in
school demographic.